Alrighty, guys, welcome back to another episode of So What's Your Goal? I'm your host, Travis Otto, and you guys are going to pay attention to this one because we have a very unique guest with us today. And so you're going to want to listen up if you're interested in business. But lately, we've been getting a lot of new listeners to the show. So if you are new, you're going to want to stay tuned to the end because I guarantee you by the end of this, you're going to learn something that can improve your life in one of three categories, either your money, your health, or your relationships. Hopefully, all three. But most importantly, we're going to be inspiring you guys to take action. So, with no further ado, we have Mr. Jordan Kellerer here. I hope I said that name right. I think I did. And he's from St. Paul, Minnesota, but now he's relocated to Austin, Texas. He's down there. He got rid of the snow, I guess. And Jordan here has started off in the trucking industry, and now he's somehow transitioned into becoming a business broker. So we're going to learn about that. And so he has a wealth of experience in buying and selling businesses. Jordan not only owns the Kellerer Agency, which is a consulting business, which is dedicated to helping others achieve financial freedom, but also boasts a disciplined mindset and a relentless work ethic here. But today he joins us to share some of his insights on building a business portfolio and the importance of developing a strong mindset before pursuing financial success. So, Jordan, welcome to the show. Hopefully, I didn't butcher that too much. So, how you doing,
Thanks.
man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, what brought you down to Texas, man?
Well, like I said, I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I was trying to break into kind of more of the financial world and get into the business brokerage side of things. And I was
Okay.
emailing people in Texas or Florida because I wanted to go somewhere warm. And I think the one guy who gave me a shot was down in Dallas, Texas. So I packed up and moved down to Texas and was in Dallas for a while. And then I relocated to Austin, branched off to do my own thing. So I'm in Austin now.
Okay. So, how did you? So, you started off in the trucking business, though, right? Is
Yep.
freight brokering, I
Yeah.
guess.
So I did
And
freight brokerage. Yep.
okay. So, how did you go from that to buying and selling businesses or becoming a business broker? Like those two very, very different things, I would think, you
Yeah.
know? And no one
Yeah.
just wakes up one day and says, you know what I want to do? I want to be a business broker. So
It's
how'd you get into that?
nah, that's a good question. Yeah, I worked as a freight broker for 6, 7 years, I think it was, and that was in Minnesota.
Hmm.
Very blue collar work, and so it was your typical 9 to 5. I was in the office, and essentially what I was is I was the middleman for helping customers get product from point A to point B, the fastest route, and then the cheapest route. So I was building a lot of
Okay.
connections and relationships with truckers, and then obviously with businesses and companies trying to get their product all around. But I didn't grow up wealthy, man. So I would spend a lot of my free time. I would go home. I would listen to tons of podcasts about money, finances, investing, stock
Hmm.
market, anything that I could latch onto that would help me make some money because I was making, the
Yeah.
average salary and I wanted more, I think just like a lot of people. And so I realized, okay, I got to start dedicating some time to learning this because I didn't have a college degree, didn't have much financial education. So I spent a
Hmm.
lot of my free time, a lot of my weekends learning about money. And I had actually stumbled upon a business brokerage job. And I had no idea what it
Okay.
was or that it
Yeah.
was even a role. And so I looked into it more and I thought, no, this is a good way to get into the industry. But I had no degree. I didn't have any experience. And so I just figured I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to email all these business brokers or owners who owned smaller boutique firms. I wasn't going for, Goldman Sachs or
Yeah.
JP Morgan. I wasn't emailing those guys, but smaller boutique firms in the Dallas, Fort Worth area, St. Petersburg, Florida area, because I was wanting to move somewhere warm, as I said. And I
Yeah.
would email these people all day, every day for weeks. And I had one guy who actually responded and said, "Hey, I'll give you a shot. It's all commission based. You're not going to get paid until you close a deal, but you can come on down
Okay.
and I'll teach you the entire process." And it was a small enough company where I was able to learn the entire process. I think with a lot of these larger firms, you come in and you're running coffee for the first year and then you're running spreadsheets for 1 to 2 years after that. So I was lucky enough to see the whole deal process, but he gave me a shot. I packed up all my belongings into my Chevy Impala car and drove from St. Paul, Minnesota down to Dallas, Texas. And that's when I really started learning about money and finances and getting kind of a first look at
Oh,
everything, which was very, very helpful for me.
yeah. Okay. So how long were you working with that guy before you went out on your own? Or I'm
Uh,
assuming you're out on your own now, right? Is
yeah,
that's the
yep.
deal?
So I'm no longer there. That was up in Dallas. It was a few years, 3, 4 years, I think it was, up
Okay.
there. And then I decided to kind of branch off and do my own thing and move down to
Yeah.
Austin.
Okay, okay. So I mean, I see people all over the internet, and that's kind of when I kind of stumbled across you talking about buying and selling businesses and all this stuff. I feel like it's like the next hot button topic, and so um, I wanted to talk to you about it and just see pick your brain and kind of understand everything. I also do you follow JT Fox? You follow that guy?
I do.
You heard of
I
him before?
Yeah, I came across his page pretty recently, maybe 6, 7 months ago. He's a baller, man. He's a real
Yeah,
baller. Yeah.
yeah. So I just spent some time with him the last 2 weeks. I went to his country club out there in Nashville,
Oh, nice.
and
How
then
was
he
that?
invited. It was awesome, man. He's a smart dude, super
Yeah.
smart, really great, like genuine guy. Like he's not like your normal like online influencer trying to sell you a course or some shit. You
No.
know, he's like no bullshit, just straight up, and he's getting into that same space where he's buying and selling businesses. I think he has almost 80 companies now that he's doing, and then he partnered with another guy. I don't know if you've ever read his book. Have you heard of Adam Coffey before?
No, I know what you're talking about though. He's the one who does a lot of the M&A
Yeah.
transactions, I believe. Yeah.
Yep, a lot of M&A. So then I went to a seminar. So I went to JT Fox's country club, hung out with him for a couple hours, and he said, "Come back next week. We're doing basically an M&A mastermind type thing." So I got to sit in there and listen to that between him and Adam Coffey, like explain, everything from start to finish, like how they're rolling up these smaller companies, and it's
Yep.
really cool, man. And it's all about getting the biggest multiple for what you're doing, you know.
Big.
So
That's it.
yeah, and so do you own any businesses right now yourself, or what are you doing? Or are
Yeah.
you just focusing on helping other people?
A little bit of both. I mean, I'm still in the early stages of the consulting side of things. I own one.
Yeah,
I'm in the middle of a deal right now. I probably can't talk too much about it, but in the middle of one now,
sure.
so that's exciting. Obviously, I'm always open to looking at anything that makes sense. I mean, my goal is to have a portfolio of businesses that produces a good cash flow on a monthly basis for
Yeah,
mine. But I also really enjoy. It's weird because the process is so stressful, and it's there's so many ups and downs. A business
yeah,
transaction, the average length of it is 6 month plus, depending on the deal size, right? So you're looking at 6 to 12
yep,
months just to finalize the deal. And throughout that process, you're spending late nights, phone calls, you're stressing several times throughout the process. You think the deal is dead. But for
yep.
me, I love that. I love that, the ins and outs of the process. And so that's where I have enjoyment of helping people buy businesses. I don't help people sell them anymore, just because I don't have my
Okay.
own firm. And there's a lot that goes into it, and to marketing the
Yeah,
business. And
there's a lot that goes into buying it, a lot of deal underwriting,
A hundred
right?
percent, 100%. So the
Yeah.
consulting side of things, I really do love as far as the buy side, because I get to be part of these deals and help people walk through the process of buying a
So
business.
so you're a young guy and you got a young face too. So I mean, I've always had the issue where I look like I'm 19, and these guys are like, I do business with a lot of older guys. Probably the average age that I do business with is probably like 60,
Yeah,
in my industry. And they're always like, what the hell are you possibly going to teach me or tell me that I don't already know, dude? I'm twice your age. So do you deal with those type of things as well in your line of work?
dude, that was probably, just to be, like I said, open book. That was probably one of my biggest struggles getting into this, and insecurities, honestly, because it was the same thing. I'm talking to these guys who are worth 100 times more than what I was at the time, and they're
Yep.
twice, triple my age. And one, it was intimidating for me. But what I learned, and
Yeah.
I've got a good buddy who's in, he does like stock analysis, and he's
Hmm.
has the same situation. I was asking him about it one time, and he said the way kind of around that, and which has helped me, is just you have to be educated. And once you know what you're talking about and you're confident around what you're talking about, sorry for
Yep.
my language, but he's like, drop your balls on the table and show them that you know what you're talking about. And he goes, that's how you earn that respect. And that's how you get over that
Yep.
fear. And that's what really helped me. And I said, okay, I need to take this to the next level. I need to know every ins and outs around what I'm talking about. So if someone
Yep.
calls me out, or tries to say something, I know where I stand on the topic, and I know the actual facts around the topic, whether it's where we're at in the deal process of trying to onboard a client. I think that knowledge of what you're talking about, if you have that, then that doesn't matter how old you are. If you can help somebody, if you can solve their problem, I don't care how old you are. If you can make them money, they
Yeah.
don't care how old you are. You know,
Yeah. You just got a lot more proving to do. you know,
I mean,
Prove
that's
to
what
me
it
that
is.
you know your shit.
Yep, that's what
Yeah.
it is. Exactly. Yeah.
So, so you tried selling businesses and you kind of got out of that because a lot of just headaches, hurdles, knowledge base. Maybe you're still learning. You've only been doing it for how many years? You've been doing it for actually
3, 4 years now. Yeah.
3, 4 years. Okay, so
After that.
you're yeah, so you're still newer to the industry, but you know a lot. I'm sure, and you've probably learned a
Yeah.
shit ton learning from people who've been doing it their whole lives. So when you're looking at helping people buy businesses, right? What is you know how are you finding people who want to buy businesses? Actually, it's probably really easy right now. You probably make a post on social media. Who wants to buy a business? 1,000 people probably raise their hand. you
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. I think you nailed it earlier too, though. It's becoming more of a hot topic, which I love.
Yep.
But I
Yeah.
started making content on it because it was just kind of at the beginning of people getting interested in this topic, and I think people are starting to realize I'm not into real estate. I'm not a real estate expert. I think real
Yeah.
estate was this big, sexy thing. You got to own real estate if you want to be wealthy, and it's still true. But I think if you're out there buying single family homes, single family properties, and I think the people who own those will tell you themselves that it doesn't cash flow anywhere near a good, healthy business can. And so I think people like
Yep.
that are starting to realize that, okay, these business acquisitions, if you can vet it properly and you can find a good deal, it doesn't even match up close to owning single family properties. I think you got to start getting up to those multi-door units where the heavy cash flow comes in. But yeah, so I started making content on that, and it honestly kind of started taking off pretty wild. And people
Well,
were
I'll,
showing
I'll tell
me.
you. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this, man. Sorry to cut you off, but I mean, just speaking on that, like real estate versus businesses. Everybody thinks real estate is the way to go, but there's uh there's like almost 2,700 billionaires on the planet, right? Only 193 or 97 of them were made from real estate. 93%, the rest of them all started in business. And that's what kind of really speaks to me is like, okay, real estate is great, but I think real estate is something that you do after you already got money. I think it's more or less, you know, should there's like the Pace Morbies of the world who like, yeah, you can get into a house, zero down, find this, find that, but it's way easier to either buy a business or start a business, very little overhead, and you just find a niche and you run with it. That's kind of what I think.
Exactly.
Um, so are you focusing on a niche? Like in the buying and selling business world, are you focusing on a niche of certain businesses you want to buy, or what's your philosophy on that?
Not necessarily. That's like probably one of the number one questions is what industry do I look at? And I
Yeah.
think you look at it two ways. One, if you've got background or experience in a particular industry, then I would say pursue that because you know it. If
Okay.
not, I always like to tell people look at the blue collar, the home services industries, thinking
Yep.
of terms of like, what do people always need? I mean, if you want to go recession proof or pandemic proof, but I always say the blue collar, the home service, like plumbing, HVAC, landscaping, pest control, those dirty kind of businesses that people
Hmm.
don't really think about too often, but you got to put in. I mean, if your AC goes out or your toilet is there's a problem with your toilet, you got to get it fixed. You're calling somebody, and it doesn't
Yep.
matter what's going on
Yep.
with the economy or what's happening. You want to say COVID, you're calling these people to get it fixed, and so those are always more safer businesses. They're not foolproof,
Hmm.
but those are the types of industries I like to go after. As far as that and having an established business, meaning at least 5 years old. I'd like to look at those over at least $100,000 in cash flow because you want it to debt service for the bank loan. So if it checks those initial boxes, that's when I say, okay, pursue that deal and look a little bit deeper into the deal itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I think I also think too, just like thinking about all this stuff. Like, let's say you do buy a home services business. Is it if you're already in the home services space, you should look at a home services business to buy possibly. But if you
Mhm.
don't know anything about home services, do you think it's a good idea to go into the home services business if you know nothing?
No, no, not necessarily. But that's when I would say you got to really lean on your relationships and your network because what you can do and what a lot of people done, and myself included, is if you know somebody, friend, family member, business partner that has experience or at
Mhm.
least transferable management skills, where if they've managed a team in the corporate world and you can translate those skills over to running an HVAC business or something like that, make that person a
Yeah.
10% owner and make them an operator of the business to help you run it and spend the next few
Yeah.
months learning the business, or keep the owner on board for the next month or two to learn the business. But yeah, you do need to be careful that way, because if you look at it realistically, if you come in, like, I don't know anything really about HVAC, right? And so if I came in
Hmm.
and bought it straight up, 100% owner, and I come in and the employees go, "Who the hell are you? Do you know anything about this?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know anything about heating or plumbing or anything like that." That's a tough hurdle to get
Yeah.
over. If I brought on a
Yep.
friend of mine or something who has been working in it for 6, 7 years and said, "Okay, you're going to be the main operator. I'm going to run maybe more of the back end things." That's when you can get a little bit more respect from the employees. Not that they're going to turn on you, but you do want some sort of understanding of the industry. And if you don't, that's when I say start leaning on your relationships and your network to bring on board for the deal.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I've heard the opposite. I have a friend who's in the body shop business, right? And they're gonna be buying some body shops. But his philosophy is kind of the opposite. He's like, I'm gonna bring a guy in. I'm gonna make him, I'm gonna give him the majority of the profit, and I'm gonna take a small amount, and I'm gonna buy a lot of them. So he's got good operators. His philosophy is a little bit different, because he's like, I don't want to get. I want them to be really vested in this business. I never want them to go anywhere. I want a really good operator, and I want just a little piece of like 100 of them. Like,
Genius.
that's not a bad philosophy either.
Yeah, I think it's smart. I really do, because the difference between, I mean, there's so many articles about this, but like the difference between like an A employee or a key manager or operator and a
Yeah.
B one is a massive gap. And that massive gap can cause a lot of problems. And so if you can find that A operator and put them in place like your friend is doing, I think it's super smart, because they're going to be the ones who's going to drive sales in the business. They're going to be the ones who are going to grow it,
Yeah.
unless you're going to be completely hands on. But if he's going to take that approach of taking a small cut in more businesses, then that operator better be a rock star, and that's well worth paying them what they're going to do for the business.
Yeah, I think so, man. I totally agree. Give me 100 people like that. They can run the business. I can own a little piece and sit back and relax. I'll take that all day. you
Exactly.
know,
Yep. Exactly.
like that's the move, man. So do you own any businesses yourself right now, or have you bought and sold one and been successful with it yet, or where are you at in your career?
Yep, I own one, and then as I mentioned, I'm in the middle of. I've been looking actually since December for a specific industry. It's actually in the food industry, which I don't really recommend going after. But I had a family
That's
member
tough.
who was strong in the food industry, and I found a couple good deals. Looked at them
Yeah.
both, walked away from them both. Just financials were wrong. Business current owner was not running it very well, so I walked away. And then a couple weeks after that, I stumbled upon a really good opportunity, which I probably won't talk too much about because we're right in the middle of it as far as due
Oh yeah,
diligence.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm always looking. I'm finding out that the relationships you build throughout your life, that is probably the best place to start looking. Which is, I know it's hard for people to do, but if you can start building those relationships with business owners and the movers and shakers, and an opportunity comes along like that, that's so much more easier to pursue, because one, you're not competing against other buyers. It's not listed,
Yep.
and you already have a relationship with that person. And so that's kind of where
Off
I'm at.
market deals are the best deals, right?
100%, man. 100%. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing that came to mind while you were saying that, I mean, like these off market deals, the people who are thinking about buying or maybe thinking about selling but aren't quite there, you know, uh, I feel like that could be a tough conversation to have with somebody, you know, because you got to kind of convince them, hey, you're doing good. You're thinking about retiring. What if you sold it to me? But I think in my brain, there might be a lot more emotion involved from somebody who's not really ready to sell yet. Have you ran into that?
It's probably one of the number one reasons deals don't go through is emotions
Yep.
on
Yeah.
both ends. It's very. I see a lot of cold feet from buyers, because this is a huge decision. They're about to take on a lot of debt, and they start to question whether they can be successful with the
Hmm.
business. And then you see with the sellers as well, as this is their baby. I mean, a lot of these people who own these businesses, they started this from nothing 20 years ago, 25,
Yeah.
15 years ago, and they put
Yeah.
blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, and the employees are family, the customers are family. And so it's really hard for them to walk away unless they get exactly what they want. But then sometimes you open up the books and it's just not there. It doesn't equate to the valuation of the business. And so that's a
Yeah.
tough pill for sellers to swallow. So there's a ton of emotions in this. Yeah, a ton of emotions.
So
But
let me ask you this question then. So for the people who are listening that maybe thinking about selling their business and sometime in the near future, or maybe they just started their business. And I always tell everybody this, like when you start a business, you want to make sure you have an exit plan. Like, what are you working towards? Like you don't want to work forever. Everybody wants to retire someday. And you got to like build your business to be sold. And so what tips do you have for people who, if they did a couple of things, like top three things, if you do these top three things, it's going to help you get more for your business when you are ready to sell? You got any advice on that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I'll answer it this way. The top reasons why we would see businesses not sell was one, sloppy books, which is pretty
Yep.
self-explanatory, or a decline in
Yeah.
financials. But probably the number one thing is the owners were too involved. And I know that sounds crazy, but you have to look at it from a buyer's perspective. If the owner is the sole reason for generating revenue, or the relationship with the customers and clients is directly based off him or her, the owner, what
Hmm.
happens when that owner walks away? Because if I buy that business, I'm taking them out of the equation. Am I losing all
Yep.
the revenue that was tied to those clients? Or maybe you were the person out doing, going out on job sites or doing sales calls, and you were the sole reason bringing in, let's say, 60% of revenue or whatever it is, right? That's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
major red flag for buyers. And so we would see that a lot. Businesses wouldn't sell because it'd be a great business in a great industry, but then they would go through due diligence and they would see, well, the owner's basically running this business. So if I'm buying it and removing
Yeah.
them, there's no business here. And so the biggest thing I could say for sellers is put as much emphasis on your team, on your management team, on your key operators, and start to ease yourself out of the operations. I'm not saying walk away and let it, whatever happens, happens. Be involved, but let your
Yeah.
employees kind of run the business, and you can look at it from a bird's eye view from there. It'll make it much easier and much more attractive for buyers to look at your business.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%, man. Um, Shoot, I had a thought and then I lost it, but yeah, that was one of the biggest things where it's like, if oh, that's what it was about. It was about have you ever looked at the insurance industry before and
Mhm.
those types of businesses? Because I feel like those would be a lot more relationship based. I think you might run into that a lot because like insurance is a commodity, and the only reason why you buy it from somebody is one, it's the cheapest, and two, like maybe they take care of you when you have a question or a
Definitely.
problem. They answer the phone.
Yep.
And I feel like that could be a hard industry to buy and sell
It
in.
is. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, anything that's relationship based like that, and if it's tied to the
Yeah.
owner and maybe not tied to the sales reps or the employees, it makes it a difficult hurdle for buyers to get over because they got to immediately cultivate and develop those relationships right away.
So what's the biggest industry, or not the biggest industry? What industry can get you the highest multiples? What do you
Tech and
see?
SaaS, the tech industry, software as a service industry, that's where you start seeing those multiples jump into the double digits. I think a few years ago they were ridiculous. I mean, a lot of these businesses coming out of Silicon Valley were, trading at really high multiples. Um,
Yeah.
those are probably the highest multiples. But what drives a multiple is usually the earnings of the business. And so once you
Hmm.
start getting up into around that 500K, maybe more so $1 million earnings, EBITDA is the number. That's when the multiple will start to increase a little bit. And so I think this is what JT Fox and his partner do is they'll buy a platform business, and then they'll start
Yep.
acquiring smaller ones in the same industry or in the same geographical area, rolling them up into their
Yeah.
platform business, which is increasing their bottom line. And now they just increase their earnings. And so they increase their earnings
Yep.
by acquiring businesses, and now they can exit more because their earnings is more. So it's a genius strategy. Is
Yeah.
it easy to do? No, I explained it in 30 seconds. It takes a long time to do, but it's a smart
Yeah.
strategy to increase your multiple.
No, it is, man. They have a really smart plan going. And Adam Coffey, he's been doing this for 20 years, and he's sold out for hundreds of millions of dollars, like multiple times. I think
Yeah.
I think in total he has, from all the companies he sold, like gross sales is over $2 billion in exits. Like it's ridiculous. Like he's done some big boy stuff, so it's pretty cool, man.
It
And I
works.
think there's an opportunity. Yeah, it definitely works. And like, yeah, you have the platform company, you get that baby dialed in, and then you buy market share,
Yep.
and consolidate. So this company has, so like for example, you have a company who's you know, you sell garage doors or something like that, and the platform company's doing 100 grand a year, and you can buy up a couple other ones who are, they've got a back office, they've got some sales reps, and if you can get rid of their back office and keep half their sales reps, now you just increased your EBITDA because you reduced expenses, and the platform company already has the stuff behind it. So it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty slick.
It really
I
is.
uh I learned a lot about it. So tell me about your business, man. Like, what did you buy, or did you start it?
Started it, and then it's the consulting one I started a while back, and so it's
Hmm.
fairly new, fairly in that startup phase. But um,
So when you say consulting, like, what are you doing?
the business consulting, it's helping people go out and acquire businesses. So it's not quite like
Okay.
a brokerage firm, because I'm
Hmm.
not doing both sides of the transactions. Um,
Yeah.
more the buy side.
Do you represent the buyer? Is that what you're doing?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right. So how are you getting clients, or how are you finding people who need your services? Or how can I help you find people who need your services? What can I do to help you?
A lot of it is just through relationships, for people I
Yeah.
know. And then I have seen an uptick from social media, which surprised me. I always used to bash social media, and I was never really on it. And then I
You got
started
to
making.
use it right.
You got to use it right. Yeah, you got to use it right. And I started making content about a year ago, and it's for me, it's taken off, and so it's been really impressive to see that. And so got a lot of uptick from that, as far as interested people in trying to buy businesses.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So your favorite industries are home services industries. Those are your favorites.
I think it's the smarter industries. Yeah.
Yeah. Those ones I feel, personally, just thinking about it, like Adam Coffey and JT Fox in their seminar last week, they were talking a lot about like lawn care businesses, like very easy, it's simple, it's $50 it's two guys in a truck, lawnmower, weed whacker, and a blower, and you go around. But to me, in my mind, that just sounds like so much overhead already. Like, you got a truck, you got two guys, you might have a team, and you have to go around and trim all these bushes. It just seems like a lot of overhead,
Hmm.
a lot of stuff. And coming from like a financial background, probably similar to yourself, it's like I'm used to just like talking to people and selling transactions,
Yeah.
and I feel like
Well,
that could be
that's where that
challenging.
operator comes into place. If you can,
That's
like
true.
your
Yeah.
friend, and if you could go get a couple operators who really know the business, overpay them, give them part of the business, and let's grow this thing. That because
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I don't know the structure of a landscaping business. I get it. I worked landscaping when I was a teenager, but as far as
Yeah.
growing it, and I want to put someone in there who's been doing it for several years and understands it, and let them take the business and run with it.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. So I'll ask you this question. So what's your goal? What are you working towards?
I'm working towards the same strategy that I think JT Fox said. So the business I'm looking at.
Okay.
Um, I would like to get this one acquired and start rolling up smaller ones into this, and probably
Okay.
look at some sort of exit strategy in 10, 15 years, to see how it goes. So that's kind of my plan. Um, it
Hmm.
used to be having more of a portfolio of businesses. I guess we'll see how everything plans out, but I like the
Yeah.
strategy of focusing on one industry, going all in on it, and rolling them up, and looking at an exit strategy in 10, 15 years from there.
Yeah. I mean, they said you could do it in a lot shorter time than that. They said 5 years is like their goal. Like, because if you're going to sell out, most of the time you're going to sell to like a PE firm, private equity, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
they have a 10-year lifespan with their money. And so they want to the first 5 years, they want to spend it. The next 5 years, they want to get all the earnings. And then they want to sell to the next PE. And
Yeah.
so they like outlined a whole plan, and of how you could do this in 5 years. But you do have to have the right platform company, and then you have to have a good strategy. And some of the things that I'll tell you guys and whoever's listening, but you want to look for industries that are like highly fragmented, is what they said. So like the more consolidation, the lower the multiple, and as an industry, right? But like the lawn care business, like how many lawn care businesses are there? There's probably like, 500,000 lawn care businesses out there. Like there's so many to choose from. So highly fragmented. It's not like what's an example of a really consolidated industry? Like so I work a lot in the automotive industry. You ever heard of like AutoNation or CarMax?
Yeah.
Or you've heard of both of those guys, or Lithia. So those are big automotive groups, and they're consolidating the industry. They're buying it up, and so they're looking for highly fragmented industries with a lot of little businesses that they can scoop up for cheap, and then consolidate them into a big one and get a higher multiple and sell it off. So it's really really cool.
That's
So
exactly it.
when
And
you're
just to touch on that real
yeah
quick, because there was a big movement with private equity going into the car wash space like a few years back. So if you just try
yeah
to
yeah
look at car washes, you will start to see that a lot of these are cookie cutter SOP business processes as far as their subscription services or however they have their car washes structured. But that's what they did. They took all these little car washes that were in the neighborhoods and put them into one big thing. And so now they're all operating the same way. So a lot of those car washes, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them are private equity owned because that was exactly what you just described is exactly what they did with the car wash industry.
Yeah, and for better or for worse though, man, because like, okay, so I'm not from Louisiana. I live down here in Louisiana, right? And there's not a lot of consolidation down here. It's still mostly mom and pop businesses, and I realize coming from Las Vegas, where everything is pretty consolidated, it's a lot of corporations, a lot of big chains, a lot of big money. And like there's like a standard operating procedure of like, this is how we do business, this is how we treat customers, this is how we make our food, this is how we service our customers. Like it makes sense. Down
Mm-hmm.
here, everybody kind of does their own thing. And so you really have like those good places to go eat or those good service companies and the bad ones. And
Exactly.
consolidation kind of solves that problem where it's like, look, we kind of figured it out and we're going to, we got a product that people like no matter what it is. And so I like consolidation for that, but I kind of hate it because it takes away some of the individuality of, businesses.
Exactly. That
So,
that customer experience starts to go away a little bit with that when you start going away from
yeah.
the mom and pop shops.
It depends on the mom and pop shop because you just like I've been into many businesses down here where I'm like, you have no business being in business. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you
Mm-hmm.
just thought it was a good idea and enough people supported you. I don't even know how you're making money, like some of
That's
these places
exactly
down here. It's crazy.
yeah.
But that's cool, man. So what do you do when you're not buying and selling businesses, man? What do you do?
I try to get to the gym, and I like to go golf. Um,
Got to go
that's
golf. Okay.
yeah. I've
You
got
must be
my
a single guy.
no. I've got a girlfriend. I've got a girlfriend.
Okay. Okay.
I spend a lot of time listening to podcasts. I mean, obviously the podcast industry is taking off, but I love throwing in
Yeah.
the earbuds and listening to anything.
What's your favorite podcast?
I'll listen to. I mean, obviously a big Joe Rogan guy. I'll listen to a lot of Alex
Mhm.
Ramosi content. Cody
Okay.
Sanchez, a lot of good content in this space. Um,
Alex Hormozy's doing the same thing, by the way. Like
yeah,
he's got a little bit different strategy, but it's the same thing.
yeah.
He's rolling up businesses. That's what he's trying to do. Here's all my free tools that help you get to $1 million. And once you get to $1 million, talk to me. We'll help you get to the next level. He's doing the same shit.
Genius. It's a genius.
And it is, yeah. And he's taken his playbook straight out of Warren Buffett's playbook. I don't know if do you read books and stuff like that?
Yeah.
There's shit, I can't remember the name of the book now. I'm gonna say it. But there's let me find it really quick. Let me find it. I gotta tell you about it. And everybody's listening is gonna go, "What's the book? What's the book?" Right? Because I wanted to learn more. Okay, so it's Warren Buffett and the Interpretation of Financial Statements.
Okay.
Extremely boring. Extremely boring. But it tells you exactly how Warren Buffett looks at companies and how he buys them and what he looks at on their financial statements to like determine if this company has a unique competitive advantage, is what he calls it. And I was reading through it and I was kind of going, huh. This is like basically what Hormozy's doing. This is what all the smart people are doing. Like, you're looking for businesses who have unique competitive advantages. Those are your platform companies. Then you look for companies who can take over markets. It's pretty
Hmm.
cool.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it's not
I just
always
been
a
learning.
big flashy plan. It's sometimes it's just the basics, and it's never really changed.
Yeah, it can be incredibly boring. Some of it.
Exactly.
Business isn't always exciting. I think what's exciting is putting the deal together. Like once you get that deal, you're like, fuck yeah. you know?
It is. It's fun. I mean, I've had so many instances where myself included, thought the deal was dead, like inches from being dead. And then the next morning you
Mhm.
wake up and you got an email and you're right back on track like nothing ever happened. And so it's a roller coaster,
Yeah.
but it is. It's a rush. That's what makes it fun. Just you
What
gotta be able to get through those ups and downs.
Yeah. So do you think you have to be good at sales to do what you're doing? I mean, is that part of your role?
Yeah, you got to be able to communicate 100%. You have to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm sure you know too, there's a lot of egos involved in this industry, a lot of pride. And so, especially when brokers
Yeah.
come into play, they're fighting for their commission. And so they're going to fight for their client to get the best price. And even if the numbers don't make sense, you got to have those difficult conversations. And so, communication skills is pretty critical in doing things like that.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's interesting. So is that how you structure your business? You help somebody to, buy one, you get a little fee. It's kind of how your model works as well.
Yeah, that's how it works in the business brokerage world. I don't structure
Yeah.
it that way. I just do like an upfront fee, but they'll
Okay.
operate off of usually performance based. So they'll work for free until the deal's closed, and they'll get a percentage of the deal.
But
Not
you're
of the
smarter
deal.
about it. You said you hire me. Give me an upfront fee and I'll do it.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
not like a realtor.
No,
Okay.
no, no, and that's a long time to
Okay.
do a deal. I mean, that's what that's why it's so tough to be a business broker is because you can work 10 months on a deal and it can fall apart and you're right back to square one and you didn't earn a penny the entire time. And so that's tough to
Mhm.
swallow. And so one, you got to be good at what you're doing, but you have to be
Yeah.
able to be okay when that happens sometimes because it does happen and it can happen 2 3 times on one deal where you spend
Mhm.
6 7 8 months on it and the buyer walks away or it falls apart and you're back to square one and you didn't earn anything on that. So it's
Yeah,
a
no, that's tough.
tough industry.
But when the payday hits, it's a big payday though, right?
It's
Like
big payday.
typically?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Like in my industry that I'm in, it's a long lead time too. A lot of upfront work, a lot of relationship building, a lot of deliver until finally we close the deal. And then it's like, hey, it's like, all right, this was worth it. But you
Exactly.
got to make sure that you're not being, jerked around or strung along, just so they can get information out of you or whatever. So I think
Yeah,
that's a pretty smart idea, charging that front fee. Is it a
yeah.
pretty big fee, or it depends on how do you determine your fee?
No, it's just one flat fee. I don't really base it too much off of the size of the deal because we don't really know what we're going after yet. And so that's kind of
Yeah,
something I'm working through too. It's because it's time consuming, on my
yeah,
end, but I like doing it. And so I'm looking at different strategies of how to do this and how to help people. But yeah, right now it's
yeah. So,
flat fee and we'll go close a deal.
so do you have enough deal flow to keep on going? Like you got things in the pipeline you're working on?
Yeah, man, I'm busy, which is good. I can't complain, but it's a
Yeah,
lot going on, a lot of moving parts. But
yeah,
I'll take that over, when I first got into it, when you're calling everybody, emailing everybody, talking to everybody, trying to shake as many hands as possible just to scrape up that first client.
yeah. No, that's a much different offer, man. I mean, everybody's trying to get a hold of business owners for something. You know, you're trying to get a hold of them. Hey, you want to buy or sell? That's your offer.
Exactly. Yeah, they get
That's
inundated with people like that, marketing people, whatever it is, insurance people. They're constantly
yeah.
getting emails like that. So you got to be able to stand out somehow.
So give the people listening, something, because obviously you've done a lot of marketing yourself. What are some things that you've done to, enhance your marketing, get that, get a deal? What have you done? What have you tried? What do you like, when it comes to
Yeah,
marketing?
yeah. I mean, I think just the old-fashioned way of reaching out to people and just being you got to be
Mhm.
authentic, right? It's all the cliche
Yeah.
terms of be authentic, be personable. But what I did for a while when I was a business broker, I was cold emailing business owners. If I had a client that was looking for a business in a specific industry, I was scraping emails
Yeah.
off Google and cold emailing business owners and trying to spark up a conversation. And that's, as you know, it's still a long process of, okay, let's have that 15
Hmm.
minute call and then a follow up. And then here's what we can do. Here's what we can value the business at, and so it takes a
Yeah.
while. So that's what I did as a broker. Right now, I make a lot of content and try and be as authentic as possible in the content and backing that up with
Yeah.
the knowledge of at least showing that I have the knowledge of what I'm talking about, and usually that helps a lot as well.
No, you have really good content, man. I came across this guy. He seems like a sharp dude, man. I just saw a couple of your videos. I was like, well, I'll send you a message, see if you want to chat real quick, just for
I
fun.
appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate
You
it.
seem like a cool dude. So, what can for the people who are listening, what can they do to help you,
Share
or
my
how can I help you? Share your
yeah,
content. All right.
share the content, watch the content. No, I mean, I don't need anything. I'm trying to make this because I identified it as an avenue where if you've got that ambition to you, you can go out and if you want to self-educate yourself or hire
Hmm.
people, hire consultants. I think this is a very good avenue to building wealth for yourself, for your family, for generations below that if you do it the right way. And so I think you've got to educate yourself. And so that's really what I'm trying to do is just get this out there because for someone like me, when I was 18, 19, 20, and I didn't have any money, if someone could
Yeah.
have showed me this path back then and I could have started working on it then, who knows where I would be? I mean, you can't look at it that way, but that's the objective of making this content is to help get this education out there so people can start pursuing this path. Again, I think real estate's great, but I think when you put the returns next to each other, I don't think they really compare. So that's why I just
Yeah.
want to keep pumping this information out there.
So, I mean, for the people, so people who want to do business with you, do you need to be rich already or have a lot of money already to, well, I guess I have a couple questions for you. So, for your services, right? Are you going to help people find a business, or you help people if they already have a business that they want to buy in mind?
Both. I mean, obviously easier if you're coming to the table with the business, but yeah, I'll help people find a
Yeah.
business, whether it's off market or on market. To
How long does
answer
that take?
to find a business
Yeah.
takes a while, and I'll be straight up about it. It takes a while, and what I mean by a while is it can take you months, right? But you have to treat it like you have to be serious about it. I know
Yeah.
people who will inquire on a deal or two, and the broker never got back to him. It's like that's not how it works. You inquire on 100 per day, and then you start weeding them out from there. And so then you can look at it from, okay, well, this one deal didn't get back to me. Well, now you've got from the 100 people you reached out to, you've got 46 to look at, right? And then you can start to funnel them down real quickly if you know what you're looking for. This one is 2 years old, get it out. This one cash flow is too low, get it out. And then you're left with
Yeah.
seven, right? And then you can start moving forward on those seven. So finding a business alone, it's going to take you a while, especially if you're going to go off market, because then you're just doing the old fashioned route of shaking hands and talking to business owners and people in your community.
Yep.
So that's the longer route. But to answer your
Yeah.
question on the money thing, yeah, you need some
Yeah.
money. I know there's a lot of people who talk about $0 down, which there's ways to do that. You bring on an investor, but you still need liquidity in your bank account if you're going to finance the deal. The bank wants to see liquidity.
Mhm.
You're still going to need to pay attorneys. You're still going to need to pay CPAs, and those are thousands of dollars right there. And so I always tell people if you want to take the traditional route of financing the deal with an SBA loan, you're going to need 5 to 10% down. You're also going to need
Okay.
around 8 to 10% of post close liquidity that you don't need to use, but you need to show the bank, hey, I've got cash in my
For
bank
operating
in case
capital.
anything happens. And then you're going to need
Yeah.
an attorney and you're going to need a CPA. So, yeah, you're going to need some money, but if you want to know how much money, take 10% of a deal you're looking at and then take 8 to 10% of liquidity that you will have to show on a bank statement as well. So yeah, you'll need a little bit of money, but you can get creative with the down payment part of things with some seller financing, or if you have an investor, that's how you can start to reduce your upfront costs.
Yeah. Are you seeing a lot of sellers open to seller financing right now, or are they kind of give me my money? What's
It
the gist?
Yeah, it depends on the situation. The approach I like to take is 5% seller financing. Fairly easy to
Oh,
get. It's only
yeah.
5%. You can use that 5% as part of your 10% down payment. So you can cut your down payment right
Okay.
now. And so I like
That's
that
pretty simple.
strategy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's easy to get. I shouldn't say easy, but it's easier to get once
Yeah.
you
It's
start.
pretty easy to ask for.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
only 5%, and they're going to get a 95% of the purchase price wired to them at the day of close. So what's the 5%? I know it's still their money, but it's a little bit different situation.
Yeah.
Once you start asking
Just
for
helps you.
50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100%, it's very difficult. It has to be a pretty specific situation health wise. Maybe the business isn't as good.
Hmm.
Relocation or something significant happening in the seller's life for them to entertain that idea.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I never thought about such a low down or a low owner finance percentage, and then I didn't think you'd be able to count that towards your down payment. But
The
so I mean, because
SBA
there's no actual money that gets exchanged, right? It's
is
just like, hey, well,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if you got a
It's pretty
million
sweet,
dollar
man.
business, right, and you got to put 10% down, that's 100 grand. But if you can get the seller to
Yeah.
finance 5% of it, well, you get to save 50 grand. And why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Hmm. So, man, I don't know. I think I wrote down a couple of questions. I've asked them all, but I mean, like, I've learned so much about this. It's been pretty cool, and I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about it more. Um,
Right on.
hmm. Yeah, man, I think that kind of is going to wrap it up for me. I mean, you have any closing remarks you want to tell the listeners, people out there?
No, nothing. I mean, if buying a business is something you want to do, I think it starts with
Yeah,
educating yourself. I think the best
yeah,
way to educate yourself is just start playing the game. There's obviously tons of podcasts, obviously tons of books, but go play the game.
yeah.
Go inquire on a business and just start talking to brokers and taking a look at P&L statements, and that's the fastest way to learn. So that would be my advice. If you want to learn it, just start playing the game, right?
Or just hire you.
Yeah, that works too. No, but I don't have
You
anything
know?
else. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah,
It's been a good time, so
yeah,
thank you.
man. It's been awesome. Where can people find you at? Give us your social medias.
I'm mainly on Instagram, so I think it's at
Okay.
Jordan_Kelleher. So that's usually where I'm at.
Jordan_Kelleher. That's Kelliher. Kelleher. Right on Instagram. Okay, man. Well, guys, hopefully you learned something today about buying and selling businesses. Jordan, is awesome having you on. Thanks for chatting with me here. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks, man. Take care.